It gives me great honor to introduce our honored guest this year, Dr. Mummaneni. So we all know his stats, but for those who don't, he is the O'Reilly Endowed Professor of Neurosurgery, Vice Chairman, and he is the lead surgeon at UCSF out of all disciplines, including every subspecialty of surgery. He is in the board of the ABNS. He's the secretary of the SRS, past section chair of this meeting, and also has more than 550 peer-reviewed publications. So this is stuff we all know, but what about other aspects from a personal standpoint? So Praveen is always going higher. Anybody who knows Praveen, he's always striving for something better, for something more, always going higher. Here he is climbing the Great Wall of China. He also emphasizes the collaboration with colleagues. Very, very critical, just as Dr. Bess just mentioned, how friendship and mutual respect are critical in success of us as a group. He really emphasizes collaboration with colleagues. This is at an ISSG meeting here. He also emphasizes mentorship and celebration, and this is him taking out people who work with him out to dinner, and to his trainees and to the OR staff, and really appreciating what they do to make things successful. He's also a family man. Here we are in Amsterdam with us and the kids a few years ago, and really he emphasizes being together with his family as much as possible. Any trips, any vacations that he can do with his family, he really makes sure that he's with his family. Here we are in Maui at the NSA meeting a few years ago. He's also an international traveler, as I'm sure many of you know, and going to different continents, different countries. Here we are in Singapore, having a little seafood dinner here, but always traveling and just seeing different parts of the world. And friendship. This is us at the Stanford University campus with Paul Park also and his wife. Friendship and being together with his friends is very important to Praveen, and he emphasizes this a lot. Here he is with Mike Wang just after dinner. And he also, as was mentioned earlier, realizes the importance of collaborating with orthopedics. And it's very important that we work together, work as a unit. Here he is at his O'Reilly Endowed Chair ceremony. Dr. Lenke is there. And then again, collaboration here with Dr. Manish Gupta. And one thing that he does is he takes his trainees on very, very nice trips. So they may work very hard, but he will reward them with great trips. Here we are in New Delhi, India, and this is his fellow who came out with us and always gives nice trips to his trainees. He's very dedicated to organized neurosurgery and organized spine surgery. Here you can see with one of the NSA dinners in the backyard. It's really just a nice time to be with colleagues and to stay involved in organized surgery. He's got a tireless work ethic. Anybody who knows Praveen is absolutely tireless. I thought I worked hard, but he's just the next level of hard work, and I think that that's part of his MO is the work ethic is very, very strong. And he's dedicated to his past trainees and colleagues, and you can see here this is one of the past residents at UCSF, and he keeps that close relationship and the ties with people who've worked with him, and he's very loyal to people who've worked with him or he's trained. And really, he is always pushing the envelope, and I think that is the one thing that I can say about Praveen that has made him really a leader in this field, is that he's always pushing, he's always trying to make things better for the field, for spine, for people involved, for our patients, always trying to make things better and always pushing the envelope. So I'd like to introduce the 2025 honored guest, Dr. Mummaneni.
Dean, that was too kind. I have to say, one of the saddest days that I had was when Dean left UCSF and went to Columbia. It was a happy day for him, super sad day for me, a tremendous colleague and friend who I treasure your friendship. I wanted to just talk to you about things that I learned over the years. You know, I think if you want to talk about things that I've learned over 25 years, those things that I've learned are basically a few elements of things that I wish that I had been told on the front end. So let me share a couple of those things with you. The very first thing is that your family is super important. My wife is here, Bali is sitting there, and one of my kids is here, Nikhil, and you know, they are basically the bedrock of what I do and my crazy schedule, and they put up with a lot of stuff. So I think, you know, that it's important to keep in mind that that's who grounds you, and you know, basically, if your home life is good, the rest of your life can just follow. I did have some tremendous mentors, and I think that you know, when I think about my mentors, what was I thinking at the time? I'm like, yeah, I'll try to figure out how to be a great surgeon. We'll learn these surgical skills. What did I actually learn? I actually learned things like how to manage a practice, what to do when you have a complication, and you know, that the future is evolving, and that what I think is going to happen is potentially unpredictable. So being, you know, ready for that is something that's important. You know, and I think, you know, I learned that in the top left is Charlie Wilson and Mitch Berger on the top right, who were my chairs when I was at UCSF, and then I did my fellowship with Reg. And I never did a fellowship with Chris Shaffrey, but I learned a tremendous amount from Chris Shaffrey. And, you know, he basically has mentored me in multiple societies as well. So sometimes your mentors are not just folks that you work with or train with, but they're actually colleagues and friends, and they can teach you a lot along the way. This is what I thought that 25 years ago I would face. You know, we're having either an academic left side or, you know, a practice-based prior practice on the right side. And I thought, okay, you know, I trained, I'm good, I'm ready to go. But that's really not what I found. You know, coming out, I wish I had really learned and paid attention to this, because, you know, you don't pay attention to your payers, your administration when you're training. But this is really what goes on, is that, you know, the payers are giving money to the hospital. You're working for the hospital nowadays more and more, and then, you know, you have a staff that works with you. So essentially, you are answering not so much just to you know, other surgeons, but you're potentially really answering to administrators, and those corporate administrators may or may not have allegiance to you. They come and they go, and they switch things out, and, you know, they switch themselves out, and then the last one doesn't remember, you know, what the next one wants, and vice versa. So, you know, you see a lot of transient surgeon workforce issues when you see issues like this, with people moving jobs every, you know, 5 years after their guarantee is up, or their hospital administration shifts. So I think it's important to pay attention that things are not always the same. And so when I trained, you know, those were the stores that, you know, everybody went to, was Toys R Us and Sears. And really what happens now is everybody goes to Amazon. And if you're not ready to make that evolution, you know, no one really told me they'd be ready for that evolution, then you might not be ready for the future. So spine practice today has a lot of, you know, potential problems. There's a lot of payers, there's a lot of cost issues, and there's capitated populations, and you got to pay attention, because if you're like that little, you know, sort of, you know, surfer up at the top, and, you know, there's all kinds of evil stuff lurking below. And how are you going to be ready for that kind of evil stuff? Well, you got to be ready by having a good team around you. And this is, you know, a book that I read recently. And, you know, basically, how do you get from good to great? Well, you get from good to great by creating a good team around you. And this is one of the best teams, is the spine section team, and a number of the past chairs here. And I'll just call out a few of them. You know, Mike Wang, who I've worked with for a very, very long time, is a super sharp guy, and he's always thinking about, you know, 14 steps ahead chess game in the future, and is not, you know, sort of stuck in the past like I was, you know, thinking like that when I first finished my training of, you know, here's how I trained, here how it's going to be. Mike's thinking about what it's going to be in the future. You know, other people here who I've worked a lot with, Marjorie on the ABNS, It has been a very nice addition to the ABNS, has taken over as executive director, and I spend a tremendous amount of my time now at the ABNS, and she has been a good guiding force there. And then, the recent section chairs, last year was Eric, and the year before that was Adam. Tremendous work of bringing the section to where it is. And then Juan, with this year's meeting, knocking it out of the park with 1,500, 2,000 people. And we never saw numbers like this. When I was section chair, was 2016. It was like basically 10 years ago. And we were right hovering around 500 people. So to see that triple and quadruple in a decade, that's really leadership of prior section chairs. And some of them, here who I trained with Reg and Rusty, but many who I've met along the way who were just tremendously helpful folks. I learned a lot from them. Jack Knightley, Mike Steinmetz, Dom Korek, Dan and Bob. So, and Rick, of course, who has been, a master of MIS forever. There's a lot to see if you have a good team around you, and then you can help navigate you as, basically everything is evolving around you. The section officers currently are phenomenal people. Juan Uribe is a dear and close friend, and he has basically a loyalty streak in him that you just don't see in other people. I don't know if that's because he's Colombian or his upbringing or whatever it is, but I know that if the chips are down, Juan is going to put his chips down with you. And, trying to find people like that along the way is really, really important. Erica is super sharp. I mean, I see her not just doing surgery stuff now, but she's up in the dean's office. And so it gives a completely different perspective on, how things could run and how to interface with your university hospital. Charlie Sanser, who I've known for a long time since he was a resident at UVA, has been a wonderful treasure, and this organization has great finances now. Zach Gray, who I know through the section as secretary, but also I know outside of the section because we work on DoD grants and other things, a tremendously thoughtful person. And Eric Potts, a phenomenal friend, and led this section with tremendous dexterity and taught me a lot about the business side of medicine. And, there's a good number of standing committees here. Dean I already mentioned, but, Shrag, who trained with me, also has been a dear colleague, and all these people do wonderful work, but Mo Biden on the QOD side, just unbelievable. Talk about putting another study group together. Shay talked about the ISSG, which is another phenomenal group, but Mo has done a lot of work with QOD, along with the NPA team, and that is also a force to reckon with now. So teams can help you learn. And all of these things, I finished my training, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go out and practice. But really what I didn't understand is that you gotta be part of the administration. The administration is actually working either with you or they're gonna be working around you. So you need to get involved with these folks. And this is something I wish I learned on the front end 25 years ago, but I learned it slowly. You gotta get involved with the contracting and the capital patient care planning. So that really, in getting to the budget cycle, you have to be sort of a part-time administrator to really be successful. I ended up getting an MBA to look at these kinds of things because what I saw is like the world is going on around me and I'm not really prepared to deal with it. And so it's easy to try to just practice and go home, but the problem when you do that is that you're not really taking care of the destiny of what your practice is gonna be. So even though we don't get taught this kind of stuff in our residencies, I think it's important to think about how are you gonna interface with that hospital and what that hospital interface is gonna mean. So that's how I ended up as lead surgeon at UCSF, which is basically the chief of surgery role, because I look at all these things, and basically somebody in your practice needs to be looking at these things, otherwise everybody else is going to be on the table for lunch. The Washington Committee basically is another group that I learned over the years is tremendously helpful. Until recently, it was led by Katie Arico, who's here in the audience, and then now is led by Charlotte Pineda. And basically the issues that I'm facing in my own practice, at UCSF, with dealing with administration, dealing with payers and limited networks and things, these folks have figured out that this is a national issue, and they work with Anthony DiGiorgio, who's one of my partners, and Lou Tumialan, who's here in the audience, to basically make sure that all of neurosurgery, and not all of just neurosurgery, but actually now more and more increasingly all of spine surgery, including orthopedics, is taken care of at the national level. And so this is, somebody that these folks that I really pay attention to, and as much as I can personally, donate to the AANS Washington Committee. And I think it's important for us to do that because, you know, if you look at the trial lawyers, they're all donating to their PAC. And if we don't do the same, then we're going to not have a seat at that table. National leadership is super important as well. And this is something that I've learned over the years. And there's a whole ton of organizations here. What are all these organizations about? Well, you know, some people say IIS and CNS, why are there two? I can tell you a benefit of having both of them is they both get a seat now when national decisions are being made at the RUC. And, you know, who has those seats at the RUC, which is how you're going to get paid for your CPT codes. It's IIS, it's CNS, it's ISAS, it's NAS. And so, you know, you got to, you know, be parts of organizations that are going to help determine how you're going to get paid. And those two teams have been phenomenal. Of course, the joint section has been my home now for many, many years. And, you know, more recently, I've become a director with the ABNS, which is setting the education and board exams. And, you know, one of the things that I learned there is the ABNS is there for safety. It's really not there to be feared. But it is important for those of you who are coming along the pike now to understand that CPT coding is your responsibility, and I learned that through the ABNS. And you can't say, you know, my hospital is going to CPT code for me, and I'm just going to go ahead and go with that, because you'll get called out on the ABNS. Because when Medicare comes down and says, you know, a Medicare fraud issue happened, it's your responsibility as a provider to make sure those CPT codes are good. So just a word of advice to those of you who are going through that system. The SNS is taking care of residency and fellowship education. The Academy is taking care of the top educators in academic neurosurgery in the country. The NSA has the top private practice people. And then I had a great time working with the JNS board and the Red Journal board. And Doug Konzioka and Jim Rutka have done a great job, been part of both of those organizations. And they are really wanting to educate you. There's a lot of meetings here that you could potentially go to, and your hospital administration doesn't want you to go to meetings. But if you don't go to meetings, what's going to end up happening is you'll be out of the loop on situations that affect you and your payers, and situations that basically are going to affect your regulation. And so it's important to attend these meetings and think about, you know, who is going to help you organize. You need really a team around you to work with that. So there are lots of teams here. I'm personally now part of the CSRS, and I've been a part of the SRS as secretary, and working with my orthopedic colleagues has been just phenomenal. And what I can tell you is that it's better to work together as spine surgeons. You get more negotiating power if you have a large group. There's a lot of regulations and quality reporting that get thrown your way. Administration is getting interfering in your time that you're doing trying to do surgery. You got to expect that change, and you got to meet it. And the SRS, the CSRS, and other orthopedic organizations are really helpful in that realm. So what is needed is to be involved in the section. Think about, you know, involvement in the Washington Committee, and get involved in your reimbursement regulation locally and at national levels. Because if you don't, as you go along, people are going to dictate to you what you should do and not let you practice medicine. So what does the future hold for you? You want to lower the morbidity, you want to increase the quality, you want to lower the cost. To do that kind of stuff is going to take some research effort, and you got to think about it strategically. And so technology is advancing at a rapid rate. Industry is really huge at this meeting, and they are here to be partners with us in order to make sure that our patients get the absolute best care. And incredible change is coming. You want to get into position now and buckle up, because it's not going to be like it is 10 years ago. It's not even going to be like it is today. The future is going to be completely dynamically different, but we're a super sharp group of people, and we're here to play to win. And so we can use all of the future of AI to help us in doing our surgical planning and in our research. But what I can tell you is we have to evolve. We have to plan for tomorrow, get involved in your hospitals. We are the A team. No one's going to cut us down. And if there's nothing else that I can say about neurosurgeons and spine surgeons, is that we evolve, and we can help to decrease morbidity and cost, and we can do you know, things that help administration and government, so that we're not on the table for lunch and we're actually at the table. Then you got to pick your teams, and there's a lot of power in numbers. And I hope that you'll get involved and look at the bigger picture as time goes on, because that's what I've learned in 25 years through the section. Thank you very much.